Welcome everybody to our last Knowledge of Power series for the year. Why are these event series called Knowledge is Power? Because having knowledge is power over what you have put in your body. It's the ability to keep yourself healthy. But what is the missing link? What is the crucial step that transforms knowledge into power? The answer is quite simple: action. It's what you do with the knowledge you acquire that defines your power. If you don't convert knowledge into action, it will remain a source of untapped energy. Imagine sitting in a car at a gas station and your tank is empty. The solution to your dilemma is within your grasp. All you have to do is fill up and you can be on your way again. But until you actually get out of the car and take action, that fuel will be of no use to you whatsoever, even though it is readily available. As such, it remains untapped. So knowledge plus action equals power. When you take action and take part in what is affecting your life, such as smoking, vaping, or drugs of any kind, you have gained the power to control your life via knowledge and action. Today our speaker is Officer Ben Miller of the Watertown Drug Task Force. He will be sharing his knowledge with you about marijuana and THC, so you can have the knowledge and the power over what you put into your body. Please everyone welcome Officer Ben Miller.
I like to walk and talk, so we have the mic off here. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ben Miller. I'm an officer with the City of Watertown. I worked at the Drug Task Force for 4 years, so I've been a police officer now for getting closer to 8 years. 4 of those I worked undercover, where I did controlled buys within Jefferson County area primarily, buying different types of drugs, including marijuana. I am also what is called a drug recognition expert, so I have extra training on seeing signs and symptoms of individuals that are using drugs, including cannabis. So today we're going to go over lots of marijuana and lots of cannabis. The problem that with cannabis and marijuana right now is that there's so many new types of cannabis that even cops we're like, I don't know what's legal or illegal anymore. So we're going to kind of go over that so that way you guys can know what is out there, what is being sold, and how it's going. So first we'll go over some of the laws. So in the state of Wisconsin, any type of cannabis that contains more than 0.3% delta-9, or it's THC, so it's tetrahydrocannabinol. I'm going to call it THC because I'm not going to be able to say tetrahydrocannabinol too often tonight. So THC is illegal. So federally still right now, any type of marijuana is illegal. However, in the state of Wisconsin, they outlawed just delta-9 cannabis. And that came out in the 2018 Farm Bill, where when they passed the 2018 Farm Bill, they wanted to legalize hemp for other types of use in CBD. But when they legalized hemp and CBD, what they really did is they also legalized all these other types of substances that we're going to be going over. But the main thing is that delta-9 is the actual, what gets you high. That's what makes you feel high off of marijuana. So if you don't have delta-9 in it, the way the legislator thought was that now we can't get high, so it's not a big deal. So the way that the federal government regulates this is the USDA, or the United States Department of Agriculture, regulates the percentage of THC in the plants that the farmers grow. So the farmers grow it, a USDA agent has to come out there, they test it before it is harvested from the fields. If it's above the 0.3%, then they burn all the plants, and then the farmers lose all that money. However, after it is tested at the farmer field, it is not tested again afterwards. So what usually happens is the marijuana plants go from there, they go to a processing plant where they process it into different types of products, and then from there it gets shipped to different retail stores where you can buy it. Even retail stores like the gas stations and such. So CBD is cannabinol oil, It does not have THC and is not impairing. So if you were to smoke or ingest CBD, it is not going to impair you. If you smoke CBD, it's like smoking paper. So when people do it, I never understand it. It's prescribed and it's medically safe to use for seizures. It's also been being used for anxiety, pain medication. There's a bunch of different, like, it's almost like the magical drug. It reminds me of like the Wild West days where the guy would come in on the wagon, right, and have that bottle of like cure-all, and it's everything, take this and everything will be fine. It's like CBD right now, like CBD does everything. But really, there's not really any scientific proof that supports it besides it being good for seizures. So now some of the other laws that kind of go in with marijuana and cannabis. So OWI, I'm going to sit down for a second. So you can be arrested for operating while intoxicated if you have any amount of a detectable restricted controlled substance in your body. So if you have any amount of marijuana or Delta-9, you can be arrested and go to jail and so forth for OWI. The problem with cannabis and marijuana is that a normal like marijuana high, so if you smoked like a joint, did a vape, took some gummies, the normal high lasts 2 to 3 hours, but you can show signs and symptoms and have it in your system for up to 24. And I went to a week-long course with a bunch of like scientists that like study this stuff. And if you are a daily smoker of cannabis, even if you quit, you're going to have a detectable amount of Delta-9 THC in your system for over 20 days. So you can get arrested for OWI because any amount of Delta-9 in your system is illegal. Does anybody know how old you have to be in order to purchase marijuana products or CBD products in the state of Wisconsin? 21? There is currently no age restriction. So you can be 5 years old and buy marijuana at the smoke shop here in town. You can be 10 and buy it. The other problem is the Clean Air Act. So the Clean Air Act is when we outlawed smoking in bars and restaurants. Because I still remember when you would go to a restaurant and the first thing you'd ask you, right, is smoking or non-smoking. Well, now that's gone. The Clean Air Act only goes for tobacco products. So you can, technically, right now in here, I could smoke a blunt of marijuana. A high schooler can smoke a blunt of marijuana in school. Well, I shouldn't say. There's a school rule against it. However, legally, you can smoke a marijuana blunt right here in a high school, and there's no legal repercussions at any age. There are some cities that have started passing ordinances against it. I think Racine has a city ordinance that at least the retailers cannot sell any marijuana products to anyone under 21. But otherwise, other than that, I haven't heard any other ordinances. The Lung Cancer Association, or Lung Cancer Association, I was going to say that. I know that they're looking to pass cannabis within the Clean Air Act, so that way at least we can outlaw it and smoking it in bars and other things like that. But as of right now, a 5-year-old can sit here in this right here, right now in this auditorium and smoke the blunt, and there's nothing legally against it. All right, so different types of cannabis. There is so many different letters and numbers that every time I think I know what we're at, I learn there's a new one that comes out, and then I'm like, what is that? There's Delta 8. I think Delta 8 right now is the most popular, or the most common. Other than that, I think, and then it goes THC 0 or O, and then it goes THCA, which is tetracannabinol acid. There's a bunch of different acronyms: sativa, indica, hybrid. These are all just like keywords that I remember. Like indica, it produces a different high than sativa, and the way I remember it is indica puts you in the couch so that you're like relaxed and kind of like snacking on chips, and then sativa is more of a head high where you get more stimulated. But the only thing that really matters is, does that have a higher percentage in 0.3 delta 9. That's when it's illegal. If it's under the 0.3 delta 9 concentration, it is legal. There's a little caveat though, with especially with THCA, which is THCA acid. It is the precursor to delta 9, and once you heat it up, it becomes delta 9. So technically, you can buy it from the smoke shop in a bud form. Well, how else are you going to use it besides smoking it and heating it up? And once you heat it up, it now becomes delta 9. So your pipe that you use to smoke THCA is now illegal. You can get an OWI for driving while under the influence of THCA because it's going to be a detectable amount of delta 9 in your system. So that's like the newest one that I know of, and that's the newest way that they're getting away with legally selling this stuff. So what I have, I'm not going to hand it out because everyone's like way all over the place, but these are all different products that I have purchased from here in either Watertown or in smoke shops in Ford. And after the presentation's kind of done, sorry, you guys can come up here and kind of look at it, touch it. It's all legal stuff, so you can like handle it, whatever. I just ask that you don't take it with you because I do need it, but if you do, you're not going to get arrested at least. So this first picture, so this I bought at the Watertown smoke shop over by Walmart. This is THCA. I don't know how you can tell the difference between this and normal marijuana, right? It's just packaged into, he literally has like, he had a bunch of glass jars back behind him. He went, took it out, and then put bud in, a bunch of bud into this little packaging and gave it to me. Like, how am I supposed to know? How is me as an officer on the street, I pull over a car and I find this, how am I supposed to know that that is like technically the legal THCA stuff compared to normal good old marijuana that you buy off the street? So that's THCA. This is Delta 8 gummies that I bought at the smoke shop on 3rd Street. This is from Fort Atkinson. This is, what is this? This is more THCA stuff. This is at least packaged like nicely, so if you're an officer or whatever else, you can at least know what it is by reading the label. Whether that's 100% true or not, I don't know, because there's no one regulating. There's, like I told you, there's no one that's testing for what the concentration of delta 9 is in any marijuana. So whether that's actually what it is or not, I don't know. I'm just going to go off the packaging. This is a vape device. So this cost me $43, and this is a Delta 8 vape device. When you go and buy it, this is actually a disposable vape device. So it's got the cartridge that contains the THC oil in it, and then it's got the actual device that's how it heats it up, so that way you can vape it. You can also just buy cartridges, so that way it changes it in and out, and you can have different flavors. It all smells different. This is very popular with teenagers right now, especially with marijuana types, because it doesn't have that odor. So if you think about like back in my high school days, or at least like smoking cigarettes, right? You kind of like in high school, you go out and smoke a cigarette, and then you come home and then you reek of a cigarette, and your parents know, like, how are you supposed to hide that you're smoking a cigarette when you go outside for like, it takes like 5 to 10 minutes, and then you come in and you reek like one. Well, now that you have a vape device, you just smell like fruity. It doesn't smell like that marijuana smell. It's not like pungent where you're like, oh, you smoked weed. I think it's kind of, it's funny how in 2024 now, I think everybody knows what marijuana smells like. You can just recognize it just by walking past it. And these vape devices, though, they don't have that same odor. It's just fruity. It says right on the box, 2 to 3 puffs, 2 to 3 inhales, and that is 1 serving of marijuana. So that'll get you high for 2 to 3 hours. How long does it take to inhale 3 times off of the device, right? How easy is it go into the bathroom? That's one of the main issues that we have at the schools is how hard is it go into the bathroom, take three puffs, and then go back to class. You don't have to go outside or hide underneath the stairwell to smoke a cigarette like you used to. A little trick with vape devices is that the side of these is very, very thick. Like it's like honey. And so one of the tricks that I do in order to tell if a vape device is marijuana or cannabis, or if it's nicotine, is you just flip it over. And that little, it's hard to see on the picture, but there's a little bubble that you can kind of see where the vape device is. That bubble won't move if it's marijuana because it's so thick. If it's nicotine, it'll flow just like water, like a normal bubble would flow in water. What else did I got here? Is there some more? So these are Delta 9 gummies that I bought at the smoke shop. And if you were paying attention so far, you'd be like, I thought you said Delta 9's what's illegal. And I'll say, yes, I did. The way that they are getting through this is there's 250 milligrams of Delta 9 within one of the gummies. The gummy total weighs 7,500 milligrams. So if you do the math, that's 0.03% THC Delta 9 within the gummy. Well, you still can get high. And if I remember right, I think the serving size on one of these little gummies is 2, or is a half. Yeah, so you're supposed to eat 1/2 gummy and then wait an hour, and then dose as needed. Who eats half a Sour Patch Kid here when you eat your Sour Patch Kids? Nobody, right? So that's the issue with it. So that's how they're getting away with it, because again, we're not regulating the percentage at the manufacturer anymore or at the retail. We're only regulating that in the plant. So after the plant gets taken, they can extract the Delta 9 from the plant, inject it into these different gummies, so that way it's technically legal because it's under the 0.3% legal law, even though the rest of it's just sugar and sugar candy. Again, this is another Delta 9 gummy. You're supposed to take 1/3 of this is 1 serving. So the problem with, I shouldn't say the problem. So another thing with the edibles is that it takes a very long time for it to actually start affecting you. It could take, like that said, take a half a gummy, wait an hour, and then if you feel like you need to take another, if you're not feeling the effects. Who waits an hour to feel if they're going to be high or not, right? Like even if you're drinking alcohol, who would want to drink a beer and it takes an hour to feel it at all, right? Like nobody. So a lot of times what happens is maybe you do take the half of the gummy, you wait like 5-10 minutes, you're not feeling it, take the other half of the gummy, and now half an hour later you're tripping really badly. So this one's 1/3, so I don't know, everyone's just going to take the whole thing and then they're going to be super high later. These are just some photos of different ways that marijuana is packaged. That's like street stuff. This is the most common way that I find marijuana, like street marijuana packaged, is the freezer bags or vacuum sealed bags. For whatever reason, they think that then it doesn't smell, even though it still reeks. But that's what they do to try to avoid the smell, and it keeps the marijuana fresh. This is a case that happened while I was at the Jefferson County Drug Task Force, and it's not that far away in Waukesha, so it's literally a bordering county. They just had like 12 different people that were making THC vape cartridges. They were buying empty ones, filling them up. I think their task force took a house that was over $500,000 that they were making. They made enough to buy a $500,000 house in cash just by selling vape cartridges. When I was at the task force, which was last year, so it's not that long ago, one of these marijuana vape cartridge cost $40 to $45 on the street, and you can buy them like online from California for like I think it's like $20 a piece right now, maybe even less. So you're doubling your money, and if you do the math, 30,000 filled ones times $40 a piece, like how much money is that they're making off of it? It's a ton. These are all marijuana products down here at the bottom. Warheads, Starburst, Skittles. these Cheetos, like, and you're only supposed to eat one Cheeto, by the way, so I don't know who does that. The problem with this stuff to me is who's that advertised for? Right? Yes, it's for children. And me, because I have a sweet tooth, but that's very much directed towards children. And they're starting to, California and other states are starting to realize, like, hey, we don't want to advertise, at least for our kids, and they're starting to put regulations in effect for the advertisement. However, Wisconsin, we don't have any, because right now marijuana is illegal, so we're not going to, like, you can't, it's already illegal, you can't advertise for illegal, it would be like, hey, we also don't want any advertisement for cocaine, so let's not make that, we're not going to pass a law until it becomes legal to then reduce the access to children and the advertising to children. So, did I kind of get anyway, this is when I went to a different training, the detective that worked on this brought this case up. So this is in Colorado. They had a kid, he was given a cookie, a marijuana cookie to eat. At the smoke shop, they were like, hey, you're supposed to cut this into 6 pieces, take one, and that's all you need. So the kid actually did take 1/6 of a cookie. He waited 10 minutes, wasn't feeling high, ate the rest of the cookie, then got super paranoid, was tripping out, and then jumped off of a hotel and died. So that just shows you some of the risks with it when you don't know. Knowledge is power, right? Little plug. So if you don't know, you're going to everyone's going to eat a whole cookie. Everyone's going to eat a whole gummy. So if you don't know, this is something that can happen. THC dabs, and this is another thing that's concerning. So back in like the 80s, 70s, 80s, marijuana, the concentration within the marijuana plant of delta-9, which is the part that gets you high, was around like 3 to 6%. Most marijuana nowadays is around 30 to 40% delta-9 concentration. And then these THC dabs, what it is they actually, in different processes, they extract the delta-9 and they get these percentages up to 100%. I've never seen 100% because I guess it's like really bad. Like people hate the taste of it and the feel of it. But usually these THC dabs are in the 80 to 90% range of delta-9 concentration. And I will show you how to make THC dabs and the danger of it here. There's a couple videos. If they play.
So I'm going to give you an idea start to finish from the little 6-inch clone all the way to the finished product here.
Let's do it, man.
Let's go. All right, this way we'll start out back. So this is my shop. My dad and I built this 4 years ago, 2017.
Wow, this is a serious get up.
12 by 24.
I can smell it. I can smell it. Ah! You built all this out yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. My buddy's a commercial electrician. He was growing for 10 years before we set up my room. All right, so we're going to take our food processor here. All that heat, all that. So grinding up, you fit more in the tube, it flows better.
Yes, sir. The butane flows better.
Exactly. Go back and forth, make sure you get all the juice on top. So stainless steel tube, that way we don't have to worry about rust when all the liquid's flowing through there.
Good call.
I use 6 filters, each filter's 50 microns.
Mm-hmm.
So that way we're making sure it's a clean product.
Cleaner product, that's right.
Even with all these contraptions, Ellie is still running a major risk. He's open blasting with liquid butane to extract the THC compound.
So the benefit of this is I can do 3 tubes at a time. Indoors it'd be super risky because that butane's evaporating, it's in the atmosphere. In the 10 years I've been doing it outside, I haven't had one fuck up ever. As far as that's concerned.
So do you know anybody who has blown themselves up?
I don't personally, but you see stories in the news.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Stockton last year, there was a pretty big explosion. So give them a little shake, put them on here. And here's the fun part. So once again, there is vapors coming off.
I see it.
I try not to have any electronics around. Honestly, I'll leave my lighter inside just in case, you know, I don't want to fuck up one night while my lighter type of deal.
I can definitely see it.
Butane is heavier than oxygen.
Yeah.
So it drops, exactly. So a lot of people, you know, they're not paying attention. It'll fill up the room and get just high enough to hit that outlet, and that's when the explosion happens. So we're literally just freezing it right now. You can actually see the frost as it works its way down the tube.
I do see it.
And I'm sitting here holding the cans, reading the flammable side right now on the back of the can.
So already starting to drip.
Now, probably, I would say 90% of that is butane.
Okay.
Literally.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's all liquid butane.
Okay.
By the time it evaporates, it'll just be a small layer on the bottom.
Gotcha. Thin.
Yep. Give you an idea. Now we're gonna let this sit outside for the next few hours, let it evaporate. Nice and safely out here. I'll show you the next step.
The process to extract the honey oil is intense. It's dangerous and time consuming to get all but the trace amounts of butane out. But the payoff is big. Every batch Elliott brews will bring in about $1,600.
So I try to remain under the radar. You know, I try to keep everything discreet. So, did this little contraption here.
Yo.
This way I make money while I sleep too,
Love,
you know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
That's a degassing oven. I actually have a slab right here, and I can show you what's called a muffin. So, here's the fun part. This is gonna blow up from all the butane actually in it. It's gonna puff up like a muffin.
The blow.
There is a blob!
Yo.
So I'll refer to as the muffin. Right now I stopped the pressure so it didn't hit all the walls.
Yeah.
Now I can drop it a little bit there.
Yeah.
This goes back down.
I noticed you cut this oven into the wall.
Yes, I did. So there's a vacuum pump.
Wow, I thought of everything.
I try to be as discreet as possible.
Yo.
So that's for noise. As you can see, the smoke's coming off.
This feels very brick and mortar.
Oh, it is. It's pure farm to fork too. You know,
Yeah.
that's what Sacramento's known for.
Mm-hmm.
So this is good enough for me. You know, I provide.
So if you didn't quite get that, that's how you make butane hash oil. Is you just grind up marijuana, you put it into a pipe, you then pour butane down it. When the butane goes through that marijuana in that pipe, like you could see, like he was just holding that stuff, it was getting cold. When that butane goes down, it drags the actual delta 9 THC with it. So the butane and the delta 9 come at the bottom. You put it on a plate. He has a really nice setup with like that whole like oven that has a depressurizing. But most people like that. I've only really seen it once here in Watertown, and that one time they were just heating it. It was on a glass plate, and then you just heat up the glass plate, and it bubbles at the bottom, and then the butane like slowly is released, and you evaporate the butane off of that, and then that's how you get the marijuana hash oil out. But then when you're using a bunch of butane, this type of stuff.
Dad in Whitby. We're back here live tonight at the scene of a house explosion that occurred on Wednesday afternoon. You can see the force of the explosion blew out several parts of the home, the entire side there just blown out. Well, tonight, several criminal charges have been laid against one of the men who lives here, including one charge under the Federal Cannabis Act. Investigators now believe the explosion happened while butane gas was being used to make cannabis oil. The accused, 48-year-old Jody Cormier, lived in the basement unit of the home. He is one of 3 people who suffered minor injuries in the blast. Cormier faces 3 charges related to arson, criminal negligence, and using a chemical to alter cannabis. The house.
All right, probably don't need to watch all 4 minutes. Good that you guys can understand that the house blew up really badly. So that's how you make butane hash oil. There's a couple other steps in the process, so don't take this home and try to do it, because you're like, oh, he made $1,600 a time. I'll do that too. There's a couple other steps that they don't tell you in the video, so don't try that. And so this slide is just something that I brought up from some of the cases that I work, and why marijuana is still a dangerous drug. Like, honestly, marijuana to me personally is almost, it's like alcohol. However, as a police officer, I have fought with people all the time that are drunk. However, I don't fight as often with people that are high. They're usually very chilled out, and they're very like, whatever, man, So it's almost like, personally, it's almost like better for people to be high on marijuana when I'm dealing with them, because they're not fighting me and drunk. However, it's still illegal. And guns and stuff like this, and that there's a lot of violence that occurs when you're talking about the drug game. There's a lot of money that can be made off of the marijuana business, if you want to call it that. Like, that guy was making $1,600 a time. Those kids that were doing vape cartridges in Waukesha County could pay straight up for a $500,000 home. I think they're. This was a house in Watertown here, where the guy was shipping in, I think we found 17 pounds of marijuana and other marijuana products. And he would buy the marijuana for $800 a pound in California. And he would just put it on the airplane, which like I was like, what? You just put it on the airplane and then get it over here? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, how do you do that? I can't get a pair of fingernail clippers through TSA. How do you get 10 pounds of weed on your suitcase through? But I'll tell you the trick, it's first class, because then when you're checked luggage, it doesn't get searched, because it's the first one to go on the plane, the first one to go off, so the chances of you being the randomly selected search one is like 0. But anyway, I gotta stop teaching guys how to do marijuana. So you buy a pound for $800 in California, get it out here, and you can sell the pounds usually between $2,500 to $2,800. So he's making a $2,000 profit per pound. So if he had, I'm just gonna, for easy math, if he had 10 pounds, that's a $20,000 profit. He's doing flights probably, it was pretty much like monthly of about 10 pounds at a time. So he's making $20,000 a month, and the biggest benefit is not taxed, right? So $20,000 non-taxed, 12 times 12 months, you're making $120,000 a year, non-tax, straight cash. So it's a very lucrative business, and that's kind of why it happens. Let me go back. This is a indoor grow that we found on County Road D, in between 106 and 18, so like just outside of Fort Atkinson, kind of. We actually, I won't say how we found it, but it was not on purpose. It's not like we did a good job. It was a death scene, and then it was like, oh, why is this all happening? So in that house was 95 plants, something like that, another 17 pounds of produced weed. And I learned a lot just by like going through this guy's like house and like looking at this stuff that he's got growing. You can buy tents offline, and they're like, it's almost like the size of a single person tent, and it's a whole grow tent, and you can put 5 to 10 plants in there, and you could do it literally in your apartment and be growing weed, and no one would ever know, because it's right there. His system was very MacGyvered, but it's still very like smart. Like he's checking the humidity control, temperature control, all that stuff. But again, there's like 800 guns at the house. But I'm not gonna go too much more into that. This is the house in Watertown with the 17 pounds, and showing all the cash that they had and all the other types of stuff that we were finding. So now I'm gonna go quickly over the signs and symptoms of like what does cannabis do to the body? What does marijuana do to the body? What does that look like? And this is the training that I went through, and this is kind of like, basically what I'm going to be teaching you off of. It's the drug recognition expert program. I'm not going to go too much into it. It's a really, really tough course, but I did go to Milwaukee, and we have to do 12 evals on people that are actually high on drugs, so we just go out, grab crackheads and other people, bring them back to the police department, and then we would do tests on them. I think I did 2 or 3 evals on just marijuana people, so that we can actually see. It's really hard because like in alcohol, when we do standardized field sobriety tests as cops, we can get like normal people drunk, see what the effects of alcohol is on the person. Well, you can't really like bring somebody in and be like, here's some crack, here's some heroin. Oh, look at that, this is what happens to your body. So you have to go out and find people, and you think like people really want to come with us that are crack users, want to come with the cops to go. So, but we convince them, and then we get to do the test. So how do drugs how do drugs affect you? So any impairing substance, it has to get to your brain in order to start producing that impairment. So there's several different ways that it can get there. You can inject stuff, eat it, insufflation, which is snorting, smoking it, or transdermal, which is like through the skin, or if you take those sublingual films underneath your tongue and such like that, that's transdermal. Can anyone guess what's the fastest way that it gets to your body? Like injecting it, snorting it, smoking? It's smoking. Because what happens is when you smoke it, that drug is then diffused into your lungs, goes to your bloodstream, and then it's pumped from your lungs, because oxygenated blood is pumped from your lungs to your heart, and then from your heart out to your body, which goes to your brain. So if I inject something, you inject into a vein, which is deoxygenated blood, so your blood has to then go from your veins to your heart, from your heart to your lungs, then to your lungs, back to the heart, and then from the heart, then to your brain. And we're talking about like a difference of like 10 seconds, but still. In general, like a general kind of rule of thumb is the faster that the substance gets to your brain, the more intensity high, and then the faster that it gets out of your system. So if I were to smoke marijuana, I would be high pretty much instantaneously. And then that marijuana high would, like I said, it lasts like 2 to 3 hours. If I were to eat marijuana, because it goes through the digestive system, it's going to take closer to half an hour before you get high. However, that high is going to last more of 4 to 6 hours, but it's also not going to be as intense. So some of the signs and symptoms. So this last year we actually did a green lab up in Manitowoc County. So we had a bunch of people come in and we gave them marijuana, the legal stuff like THC, Delta 8, and then we did field sobriety tests on them, so that way we as officers can see more of this drug impairment stuff, because it is kind of like a lack of training or knowledge area for police officers is drug impairment. It's easy for me to recognize when somebody's drunk because I've been drunk. I've seen people, right? Like I think we're in Wisconsin, so most people started drinking at about age 12. So we all kind of know people that are drunk. We have all seen people that are drunk. We can kind of recognize that. However, I did not grow up around people that were high on cocaine or high on marijuana. I never have been high on either of those substances. So how can I recognize that when I don't have that experience? So it's kind of like a lack of knowledge area, so we're trying to get that together. So we went up to Manitowoc County and did green lab and then performed field sobriety test. So this girl, she said I could play this. So she's got eyelid tremor. So watch her eyelids when I play this. Oop. Maybe not. See her eyelids fluttering? Hopefully you can see. I'll play it one more time, but. Her eyelids are trembling like that. This is probably like the easiest way for me on the street to be able to tell if somebody is under the influence of marijuana is I'll just be like, hey, just close your eyes, tilt your head back, and then I'll watch if their eyelids are trembling. It's not like 100% like if your eyelids are twitching, that means you're high on weed, like that's it. However, it's in my experience, almost 100% of the time, somebody that's been using marijuana has eyelid tremors. So it's kind of like a good thing to look for. They also will have some, I'll talk about rebound dilation here in a second. They're going to be hungry. So the way that marijuana works is it goes to your CB1 and CB2 receptors in your brain. A bunch of I'm not going to get into that. But there's basically a bunch of CB1 and CB2 receptors in your stomach. So that's why you get the munchies. And that's why marijuana can be used for cancer patients that are having difficulty like being hungry. You smoke marijuana, it helps with that. It can also help with nausea because it's also going to that stomach area, and so you won't get vomiting. So if you have a problem with vomiting or nausea, marijuana will help you out. I don't suggest it for morning sickness though, because marijuana goes through the placenta super easily, so don't do that. The number one thing though also is a bad perception of time and distance. So some of our field sobriety tests that we learn in DRE school is it's called the finger in the nose test, where you tilt your head back and then you touch the tip of your nose with the tip of your finger. So your body at all times has this kind of spatial, I'm talking with my hands when I have to talk to my neighbor, has a spatial awareness, right? Like at any time I can like, without looking, kind of come over here and then like grab this can of soda, right? And then grab it. And if I didn't have that spatial awareness of where I am at any time, I would knock it over like every time. I would never be able to pick it up. So same thing when you're driving, you don't have to look at your feet to know where the gas pedal is to then switch over to the brake pedal. Well, when you're high on marijuana, that type of stuff becomes much more difficult. And it seems like, because like, why is it a big deal if I miss my nose by like a 1/4 inch? Well, what if I miss my brake by a 1/4 inch when I need to stop? That's not going to be good. It's very difficult for people that are high in marijuana to, we also do it's called a modified Romberg, where you estimate 30 seconds, and their times are either super slow, super fast, they're like all over the place. And the reason why that matters is that when you come to a stop sign at a T intersection, you see a car coming, right? Okay, I'm in a 25 mile per hour zone, that car's 2 blocks away, I can easily make this left turn before it gets to my intersection. Well, when you're high on marijuana, that is the type of stuff that you have very much difficulty with, because your time is going super fast, super slow, all over the place. So you're gonna be like, oh, I have plenty of time to get out there, when really you had no time to get out there, and then that causes that crash. Or you just kind of sit there at an intersection for like ever, because there's a car 10 blocks away, and you think it's faster coming, but it's not, and you're like, oh man, dude. So that is the main problems with the marijuana highs, is the spatial awareness and then your time perception when it comes to driving, and that's why we have accidents that are caused by marijuana usage. This is what's called rebound dilation. This is what happens so what happens is you shine a light in somebody's pupil, and then you can see how it's like pulsating like that. Your eye's not supposed to do that. I don't really know how that affects your driving yet. No one's ever told me. And this is not something you would normally see like in your child that comes home and you're like, are you high on weed? Well, Miller said, close your eyes and then tilt your head back, and then only look for eyelid tremors. And then you're like, you're high. But you're not going to see the rebound dilation in your kid or anything like that, because you have to do it in a dark room and all this other stuff. But it's just interesting to me. So this is the list of the top 20 drugs that the Wisconsin State Hygiene Lab for OWI cases within the state of Wisconsin. Now this is not from every OWI, because if it's an alcohol OWI, they're not going to test for drugs. They are only going to test for alcohol. So we have no idea really how bad drug driving is in the state of Wisconsin, because most of these drugs are used in combination. It's very seldom that I'll have somebody that's just smoking weed and not using some other type of drug. Or somebody that's drinking often has also smoked weed. So we kind of like go just after the alcohol OWI. We don't really go after the drug because it costs more money to test for it. So the top drug is marijuana. Yes, marijuana is the number one drug, driving drug in the state of Wisconsin. And then you got methamphetamine, cocaine, fentanyl now, and then there's a bunch of other ones. But those are the main ones that I wanted to talk about. This is why it matters, right? There's Dodge County, I think this crash happened in 21. Girl, the mother, I don't know if her name's up there, I didn't want to see her name. So a mom and her daughter are driving home from, I think it was from like ballet practice, if I remember right. On Highway 33 in Dodge County. This guy goes over the center line, hits their car head on, kills the mother. 10-year-old daughter is in a wheelchair for like 6 months to a year. So the husband just like lost his wife, and now he's got to take care of his 10-year-old daughter who can't walk. How I can't even imagine. But now, how do you even get her? She can't even get into her house anymore because she's in a wheelchair, right? And then steps like that. And this guy had just gone fishing, was smoking weed while he was fishing, got done, and then was driving home, kind of fell asleep at the wheel, and then crashed into it. So this is why it's important to not, it's like drinking and driving. Don't use marijuana and drive, because this is what's going to happen. And now he's in, I think he got 25 years, 15? I don't remember. I'm not gonna read that, but anyway. So he got it because he killed someone. So not only is his life ruined, but obviously the family that lost their loved ones, their lives are also ruined. And I think that's it. That is it. So here's some of my contact information if you guys have more questions and such. Like marijuana, like I didn't even go into different types of paraphernalia that if you want to see like what types of things that you're going to see from your kids or other things like that, like if you're really wanting to know, like pretty much if you ever see any type of Rick and Morty, that they're using marijuana, like 100% guaranteed. But anyway, so there's so much other things that goes into this. Grinders, how do you, I could sit up here and talk for a day and a half about marijuana. So if you ever have any questions, you can always contact me, and I can always give more presentations or better like one-on-one classes. There's also this DITEP. I got to put in a little plug for it. So it's basically like a mini DRE for educational professionals. And if you have any questions, you can go on that website, or you can contact me, and I will get you in contact with the state coordinator for the DITEP. And it's a 2-day course, and they go over all the different drugs and all the different signs and symptoms that somebody is on those drugs for both, it's mainly for schools, but it's also being used for workplaces. So if you have a company that you want to have trained on senior employees, if they're high while they're at work, you can do that. And that's it. And then if anybody has any questions, I'll come down and we can, if you want the microphone or whatever. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Yeah.
About the DITEP, is that like for just like recognizing adults, or is it like for recognizing youth potentially too?
It's for both.
Both, okay.
Yep. So it doesn't matter what age you are when you use.
Okay.
You're going to have the same signs and symptoms. And actually in youth you're going to have more because like you don't have a tolerance for these drugs usually. So you're actually going to have more. So it's for both. I don't know how much it costs. It might even be free. I don't know. But yeah. Anybody else have any questions? No. Okay. After this, I'm just gonna be up here. I'll put down the marijuana stuff that I bought if you want to pick it up and play with it and take a look at it, so that way you can like know what it actually looks like and feels like. And that's it.
Thank you, Ben. I just want to thank everybody for being here today, and the Watertown Beaver Dam Elks is proud to be a part of this, along with the Jefferson County Drug Free Coalition, and we will continue this hopefully throughout the next year and beyond. So, thank you again.